Hi, my name is Traci D. Mitchell. I am a health coach and a trainer, and I'm also the author of a book called The Belly Burn Plan. And in today's video, what I want to go through are 5 of the big foods, at least 5 foods that make my list that I want my clients to avoid when they need to lose belly fat. Now, when it comes to belly fat, there are certainly a lot of different foods that we could all eat that would pack it on. I mean, if we eat too much of anything, we could definitely gain belly fat. And I'm talking about 2 different types of fat, specifically subcutaneous fat, which is the pinchable fat, and that's the fat that's found closest to the surface of our skin. And then there's visceral fat. And visceral fat is the type of fat that gets stored deeply inside of our midsection and gets packed tightly toward our internal organs, places a lot of stress on those organs, which naturally is really, really unhealthy. In addition to that, gaining belly fat or excess fat anywhere throughout our body is generally unhealthy as well. So without any further ado, these are the 5 big foods that I think everyone should avoid, especially if you want to lose belly fat. All right, so I'm gonna start with the first thing on my list. Now, this is technically not a food, and it's usually found in drinks, but it's something that can trigger belly fat, and I want you to listen to why it does this. And this is called caffeine. Now, anyone that needs to lose a lot of belly fat or any belly fat at all should probably watch the amount of caffeine that you're taking in, especially if you experience stress in your life. And who doesn't experience stress? Let me explain how this works. When we experience stress, our cortisol levels, which is a stress hormone, naturally increase. And when cortisol starts to rise, it screams out to our cells, hey, release sugar so I can get out of here. Because remember, our body perceives this as a fight or flight situation. And so when our body has this release of sugar into our blood sugar levels naturally rise. And when our blood sugar levels naturally rise, another hormone called insulin chases right after it. And when insulin chases after that blood sugar, it pulls it down like an anchor. And oftentimes you can pull it down really fast. And now you've experienced this, I've experienced this. When blood sugar levels start to drop too low, that can bring on additional hunger. It makes us want to eat things that will give us a quick sugar boost, like sodas or candy or cookies or something that's just going to be really easy for us to get sugar back into our blood again. So how does this relate to caffeine? Well, cortisol levels are at their highest level, or should be, when we first wake up in the morning. And then gradually throughout the day, cortisol should start to decrease. But if we increase it by drinking caffeine, cortisol levels start to go up again. Now, if you're someone that experiences a high level of stress already, your cortisol levels are going to be up there. And if you compound that by increasing cortisol levels by infusing your blood with more caffeine, cortisol levels go up even higher. And it's going to take longer for those cortisol levels to come down. But more importantly to you, when cortisol levels are too high and your body's perceiving that fight or flight situation, your blood sugar levels and your insulin are going to be doing this roller coaster all day long. You could be hungrier, you might be more fatigued. All of the consequences of having a wonky blood sugar level insulin relationship happen. Caffeine in and of itself is not necessarily unhealthy. In fact, there's been a lot of research to show that coffee consumption, modest coffee consumption, can actually benefit us. But just really watch the amount of caffeine that you're taking into your diet. If you can, minimize it as much as possible and maybe just curb it to the early morning hours. All right, so the second food on the list, refined carbohydrates. I know this is a big spectrum of foods. You have everything on the refined carbohydrates list, from breads and pastas to cookies and candies. But if you're someone that's struggling with belly fat, a little bit can go a long way. Really work hard to cut out the amount of refined sugar, flours, and processed foods that you have in your diet. If you keep these foods in your diet, you'll run into a similar situation like what happens with caffeine. You'll throw off your blood sugar levels. And this is very, very common with refined carbohydrate consumption. If you throw off your blood sugar levels, those sugars are going to go up high. You're going to need to have insulin chasing after it again. When insulin chases after it, and let's not forget, insulin is, for all intents and purposes, a fat storage hormone. That blood sugar level is going to come down really fast. You're going to get hungry again, and you're going to want to reach for something that's going to give you that quick sugar infusion, more refined carbohydrate. So get off the blood sugar roller coaster, opt for foods that are going to be more complex carbohydrates, that's going to have more fiber in it, more vegetables, more fruits, things like that, and avoid refined carbohydrates as much as possible. So the third thing on my list is not a food, but it's definitely something that's found in a lot of beverages that adults consume, and that is alcohol. When you consume alcohol, you hit the pause button on fat metabolism, and this is really important. So a good example would be beer and pizza. Let's say that you go out for a night and you have a beer and you have a slice of pizza. Your body's going to pause the metabolism on fat that's in that pizza until it can move the alcohol on its way out of your body. So anytime that you drink alcohol while you're eating foods that have fat in them, just know that that fat metabolism is going to be paused until that alcohol that you've just consumed is going to start working its way out of your body. So not only might you be conserving those energies as fat, but you'll also be throwing off your digestion a little bit too. All right, so the fourth thing on my list is non-nutritive sweeteners that are usually found in things like sugar-free candies or diet sodas. Now, the research around this shows that people who consume foods or drinks that have aspartame, sucralose, or acesulfame K in them, all non-nutritive sweeteners, are less sensitive to insulin. And when you're less sensitive to insulin, that means that your blood sugar levels could be out of control again. And if your blood sugar levels are out of control again, you're gonna be storing more belly fat. So the goal here is, again, to really try to control your blood sugar levels. And another way you can do that is by cutting out foods or drinks that have non-nutritive sweeteners in them. And the fifth thing on my list is processed vegetable oils. Processed vegetable oils tend to produce more inflammation than those vegetable oils that are not as processed. So you might be wondering, what's a processed and what's an unprocessed vegetable oil? Well, a processed vegetable oil is something like corn, canola, or soybean oil, which are pretty abundant in a lot of foods. So you'll want to make sure that you read the ingredient label. An unprocessed oil would be something like olive oil, which most of us have in our kitchens right now. So the goal is to try to avoid those refined and processed vegetable oils, those corn, canola, and soybean oils, and really try to focus on unrefined vegetable oils. So if you've got olive oil in your kitchen, that's just great. If you're cooking with corn, canola, or soybean oil, it might be something you want to think twice about. Those oils are already oxidized and tend to produce a lot of inflammation in your body. If you have inflammation in your body, it's going to be really hard for you to lose weight, and it's going to be super easy for you to gain weight. So those are the 5 foods or types of foods that I have on my list. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below.